If someone actually saves your life and lets you into their home when you only have one layer of clothes left, does that mean that you are subsequently obligated to do everything solely according to the opinion of the person who saved you? This question isn't just some abstract idea. It's a really deep psychological dilemma that so many of us grapple with in one way or another. It gets right to the heart of our relationships, our sense of who we are, and ultimately our personal freedom. And right there, that single thought, how can I possibly contradict them? That's the core of the whole thing. It's this internal battle that creates such a powerful emotional trap, right? It tangles up this immense, genuine gratitude with a really heavy sense of obligation. Okay, so let's try to untangle this knot. Together, we're going to break down the forces at play here so we can really understand what's happening on a much deeper psychological level. So, first things first, we've got to explore the powerful psychological stuff that gets triggered in a rescue situation. What actually happens inside our minds when we are at our absolute most vulnerable? Well, in a situation like this, a bunch of really powerful forces get all tangled up. You got that natural feeling of gratitude, but it can so easily sour into a feeling of debt and then guilt. And that, of course, creates a power imbalance and fosters dependence. The glue holding it all together is something we call traumatic attachment. And these things aren't separate. They all feed on each other, creating that complex knot we're here to understand. When you're in a crisis, your brain really only has one job: survive. The person who steps in to help, they become more than just a kind person. In your mind, they can become a symbol of safety itself. And what happens is, this can create an incredibly intense emotional bond, where you almost idealize the rescuer, and you live with this deep fear of ever losing their support. And this brings us to a really crucial term: traumatic attachment. Now, this is way more than just feeling thankful. We're talking about a profound connection that's forged on a survival level, where your brain literally links a specific person to the very act of you continuing to live. So that intense bond, it leads us to the next really important distinction we have to make. We've got to carefully pull apart gratitude, which is a healthy, wonderful emotion, from obligation, which can turn into a very unhealthy burden. Look, the desire to give back, to show you appreciate someone, that's a basic part of being human. Reciprocity is how we build communities. It's a healthy thing. The trouble starts when that genuine act of help gets turned into a tool for control, whether it's on purpose or not. And this side just lays it out so clearly, doesn't it? On one side, you have healthy gratitude. That's an internal feeling that inspires you to voluntarily respond with kindness. But on the other side, you have this unhealthy debt, which feels like an external contract. It becomes this surrender of your own autonomy, a belief that you've basically handed over the deed to your own life. And that brings us straight to our next critical point: learning to spot the difference between real, genuine support and manipulative control. Because sometimes it can be incredibly subtle. In the actual moment of rescue, of course, there's a power imbalance. That's natural, it's even necessary. But here's the key: if the relationship stays frozen in that state, if it doesn't shift back towards equality once the crisis is over, that's when it can become really, really unhealthy. And you see, a person can get stuck in that secondary role long after they're back on their feet. These thoughts, they know better, I wouldn't even be here without them, they can become like the bars of a cage, reinforcing this idea that you owe your very existence, and therefore all of your choices, to your rescuer. So here's the bottom line. When a rescuer constantly brings up the past, when they use what they did for you as leverage, it's not about help anymore. It's about keeping control, and they're doing it through emotional manipulation and guilt. Now listen to this. This is what genuine support sounds like. It's an act that's given freely, and the real goal is to see the other person get back on their own 2 feet. It empowers them. It sets them free. And then there's the stark contrast. This voice doesn't set anyone free. It claims ownership. It implies that the person's identity, their successes, everything they are is basically just on loan from the rescuer. And that creates a psychological debt that really can never be paid back. So, okay, with all of this going on, how does someone even begin to navigate it? Well, this last section is all about offering a tool for self-reflection. Think of it as a personal compass to help you find your way. This right here, this might be the single most important distinction to make. Gratitude is a feeling. It's an internal state that you own, and it's voluntary. Submission, on the other hand, is a behavior. And when that behavior is forced on you by a sense of never-ending debt, it's not a choice. It's a form of dependency.
So let's just state this as clearly as possible. A true act of help is a gift. It's given from one human to another out of a sense of humanity. It is not a transaction that buys another person's freedom or their right to choose.
And so I want to leave you with this final, very clarifying question to ask yourself. If this person told you to do something that completely goes against your core values, would you do it just because they saved you? Your answer to that question cuts right through all the emotional fog. It shows you whether your connection is built on mutual respect and freedom, or if it's built on a foundation of fear and debt. And in the end, it reveals the true price of your autonomy.